Bloody hell, this transcript's got me fuming like a kettle on the boil.
This reconciliation package proposes devastating cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. My Republican colleagues will tell you that they are just going after waste, fraud, and abuse, but let's be clear. The only way to slash this much safety net spending is by making it harder for people to survive. Their changes will kick millions of Americans off their health care and nutrition assistance. That means more untreated illnesses, more hungry children, more preventable deaths. This isn't just line items in the budget. There are people's lives, the sacrifice of human dignity and of life itself. And for what? So that your billionaire friends can get nearly $300,000 in tax cuts? So we can expand tax breaks for corporations, hedge funds, and wealthy heirs? And that's not all. This bill includes plenty of other harmful giveaways, like new mining leases on public land, including the Boundary Waters in Minnesota. More than double the funding of ICE as it disappears innocent people, and more money to line the pockets of military contractors.
As DOGE has been rolled out, I think it's been a bit curious because I found that so many of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle have not been upset about the waste, fraud, and abuse that this process has uncovered. Rather, they've been angry that the fraud has been exposed at all. We found that for decades, the administrative state has been weaponized against the American people. We can give example after example of flagrant abuses of American taxpayer dollars. We've heard of some of them earlier, but I'll name a few more. $1 million spent to boost French-speaking LGBTQ groups in West and Central Africa through the State Department. Almost $50,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia, also through the State Department. Over $7,000 for a BIPOC speaker series in Canada through the State Department. I think it's worth noting that normal, sane Americans don't know what BIPOC means, and neither do I. $80,000 for an LGBTQ community center in Slovakia, and over $16,000 for a united and equal queer feminist discourse in Albanian society, whatever that is. And of course, we also know that our taxpayer dollars have been going to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every year to fund left-wing media outlets like NPR and PBS, paying for welfare for illegal aliens, and paying for giving out payments to international organizations that are censoring and pushing for the censorship of American citizens. Our own federal government is using taxpayer dollars to promote ideologies that tens of millions of Americans find utterly repulsive. I think if the other side of the aisle has such a deep ideological opposition to this DOGE process, I challenge them to be straightforward with the American people and explain why taxpayer dollars should be funding queer feminist discourse in Albanian society or drag shows in Ecuador. I don't think that they will, but I would love to see it if they did. Elon Musk, acting as an employee and an agent of the president, I think has certainly more democratic legitimacy than Anthony Fauci did, and he certainly has more democratic legitimacy than the nameless, faceless bureaucrats who have been running our lives for several years, the waste of which he is rooting out currently.
It's a full-on congressional cage match over the guts of America's budget, with Democrats howling about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act slashing Medicaid and SNAP to ribbons, while Republicans crow about DOGE, Elon Musk's efficiency squad, unearthing taxpayer-funded queer feminist discourse in Albania, like it's buried treasure. Signed into law by President Trump on July 4, 2025, after a nail-biting House vote on May 22nd, this beast of a reconciliation bill, H.R. 1, claws back over $1 trillion from safety nets to grease the wheels for $3 trillion in tax cuts tilted toward billionaires, corporations, and hedge fund fat cats. As a Brit peering across the pond, it reeks of the same old class war bollocks. gut the poor to fatten the rich, all under the banner of fiscal responsibility. And don't get me started on Doge. It's less a scalpel on waste and more a sledgehammer swinging at anything that smells remotely progressive. Let's tear into the Dem side first, because they're spot on about the human cost. This bill hammers Medicaid with at least $715, 880 billion inches cuts over a decade, slapping on brutal work requirements, verification nightmares, and slash federal matching rates for states daring to cover undocumented immigrants. We're talking 8.614.4 million Americans, mostly low-income families, the disabled, and kids, kicked off health coverage by 2034, leading to untreated illnesses, hospital overloads, and yes, preventable deaths. SNAP gets eviscerated too. A record $295 billion chop, 30% of its baseline, yanking food from 2+ million kids' tables and potentially ending the program outright in some states. The transcript nails it. This isn't trimming wastage, booting millions into survival mode, all to fund $300,000 tax breaks for the ultra-wealthy and heirs. Toss in the harmful giveaways, new mining leases in Minnesota's pristine boundary waters, handing 6,000 acres to foreign giant Antofagasta on a silver platter, risking toxic spills in a UNESCO jewel, ICE funding doubled to $45 billion plus for mass detention, 116,000 beds of tent city hell, and billions more from military contractors' pockets. It's a sacrifice of dignity for drilling rights and deportation dreams. What a shameful swap. They sting. $1 million boosting French-speaking LGBTQ groups in West Central Africa. State debt via Global Equality Fund. $47.50K on a transgender opera in Colombia. $7,000 plus for a BIPIC speaker series in Canada. BIPIC equals Black, Indigenous, People of Color, cheeky acronym. That, $80,000 for an LGBTQ center in Slovakia's Bratislava, and $16.5K fostering united queer feminist discourse in Albania. Chucking hundreds of millions yearly to NPR PBS, now clawed back $1.1 billion via rescission, branded left-wing media. Welfare for illegal aliens defeated most ineligible. Per Cato, non-citizens use 54% less than natives, and dosh to international orgs accused of censorship USAID grants to NGOs like those tied to BLM, Antifa slush funds per Musk. From X-Chatter, it's a powder keg. Dems like Chris Murphy decry it as a scam of the century for nursing home evictions, while MAGA types cheer Doge as middle-class salvation. Both sides peddle pork. Dems with Biden's $6.7 trillion splurge. GOP with ISIS tent empires. But this is a rigged game where the vulnerable pay and the elite play. Musk's democratic legitimacy, more like billionaire vigilantism, firing inspectors probing his conflicts. Challenge accepted. Fund human rights abroad if it fights real tyranny, but spare the theater. Slash the contractors first, or is all hot air. This mess has me proper incensed. America's debt at $34 trillion. Jobs lost. Unemployment up a sixth from cuts, and wilderness traded for copper. Revolution over reform. Bloody right? Time to demand better. Or watch the safety net fray while the fat cats feast. What's your poison, fraud, or famine?